It's time for the match preview. This week we're going to be talking about Luton Town travelling to Hillsborough to take on Sheffield Wednesday this Saturday. So, with me as always to have a look forward to the game, although there's no looking forward to this game, it's my co-host. It's Mark Ryman. How are we getting on, Mark?
Right, you remember that episode of Good Morning after Phil Schofield left indignantly after all of the stuff that happened, and the first thing that Holly, what's her name, said was, "How are you? Are you okay?" I feel like that's how we should start our pods from now on. How are you? How are you doing? Yeah, sorry to bring that up. Yeah, I'm plodding along, mate. It's bloody hard work, isn't it? It's pretty bleak, but at least we've had a couple of signings this week to try and give us some optimism and a week's worth of training under Bloomfield between games as well. So there's that.
Yeah, and the players were in on Sunday, something that I haven't seen on my weekly trips to the Bricklayers Arms every Sunday morning to record the Brickies pod. So that fills me with some hope. It really does. But let's forget about the Millwall game. Today, we're going to recap all the signings and transfer news this week. A fair bit of transfer news. So, Cal Naismith, he's back in the building. He's on loan until the end of the season. We've also signed Thello Asgard, a player that's really impressed us over the years. Many times we've seen him against Luton, and we're now linked to Milanik Ali as well from Exeter. It's been reported that we've had a fee of 1.5 million agreed for him. Do you feel this is kind of like that bit from The Simpsons where Monty Burns wants Steven Spielberg to direct his movie, and it's like we can't get him. It's like, okay, well, get me the Mexican version. Steven Spielberg. Does it feel a bit like that because we missed out on Richard Coney?
So we've got the Irish version of him. Yeah, maybe. It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I'd be quite happy to kind of jump on and say we're not being aggressive enough, but the long and short of it, we are. And if Wickham, understandably, are not wanting to sell their best player who's scoring God knows how many goals for them, there's only so much we can do, I guess, as a club.
But this should have been done earlier, right?
Yeah, agree. No arguments there. And should it have taken 3 or 4 bids to get to this point? Probably not as well. I don't understand, whether a League One player who scored, I think, nine goals so far this season. Ali, is it 9? It might be 9.
10.
Oh, 10, sorry.
Yeah, but that's good. Like, he's only, in terms of non-penalty goals, he's only 2 behind Kone in a far worse team.
Yeah. No,
he plays in a different position as well. He plays
right, wider on the right, doesn't he? A bit like the Brown position. Now, do we need competition in that area? Yes. Do we need someone who can find the back of the net? Yes, of course we do. I think the creation of chances is a big factor here as well. Will he get straight in the team? This is difficult.
He'll get minutes off the bench, I reckon.
He would get minutes off the bench. You'd hope so. We hope that about Taylor. Obviously, different circumstances and different manager. So I'm not disappointed with it. I'm sad we didn't get Kone, as it looks as if that's not going to happen, because we could all see, how good he's been in League One, and there was the added bonus of him playing under Bloomfield. So yeah, I mean, I think all Luton fans are a bit disappointed. It looks like 1.3 or 1.5 million or whatever it is easily enough to get that player. But can he transfer it into the Championship? Who knows? It's difficult. But you're right. This could have been done a lot earlier. Certainly.
He was playing for Halifax Town just like a season and a half ago, and he was tearing it up. Sort of feels it could be kind of like a Jamie Vardy in a way, but I guess we'll find out. I see him as like an impact sub, pace, because we don't have much pace. I see him as a younger, hungrier Chirag Bene. It's just quite funny that he's Irish as well.
Yeah,
It's a funny one.
if he's got Chio's pace, then and he's got Kaz Lualawa's celebration as well. So yeah, that always goes down well. So
Yeah,
if
he
we
can
see
hit
some of
them
those,
from
we'll be happy.
distance. He won goal of the round in the FA Cup, I think, or
Right.
JPT or whatever it's called. I don't know. He's he's doing all right in a struggling team. But the really exciting one is Thello Asgard, who's got a simply brilliant name as well. Like
Yeah, incredible.
Godlike. And his first name's Thelonious. Like, have you ever met a
Thelonious
Thelonious?
monk? Yeah, no. Surprisingly enough, I don't know many Thelonious or Thelonii, as I think the plural is. But no, yeah, incredible name, and of course, I remember that goal. Is that we were 1-0 up in that game? I think they turned it around to beat us 2-1 in the season. We got promoted. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But yeah, that goal was incredible.
Yeah, he actually
I thought,
prompted that turnaround as well, coming off the bench.
Yeah, that's right. I can't believe how young he is, because that feels like, I know it wasn't that long ago. It just feels like a long time ago from a Luton perspective, perhaps. But yeah, that is a great signing. That's a really good signing. And it's exactly one of the things that we need is a bit more creativity. And someone who's not afraid to have a shot from outside the box. I think lots of Luton fans have been admirers of Scott Twine since we were linked with him way back when he was at MK and ended up going to Burnley. I'm not suggesting he's as polished as Scott Twine was at that point, but he certainly offers some similar characteristics there. Really exciting young player. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing him in a Luton shirt.
Yeah, and he, of course, was breaking into the Wigan team as Cal Naismith was sort of coming out the door. It kind of works in a way that he'll know Cal Naismith and Cal Naismith can introduce him around. I said this in my instant reaction video as well. Cal Naismith coming back. I'm feeling pretty optimistic about it. I don't know how he'll fare playing in the left of a back four, like left centre back position, but I guess you need a natural left footer that can progress the ball out from the back, because currently we don't have that. And it'll only benefit Mark McGuinness having like such a talker next to him as well.
Well, I think, I had mixed feelings when I first saw it announced. I was like, well, because he hadn't played so much for Bristol City. But then I did think about it, and as lots of people have pointed out, it's that leadership quality, the less tangible quality that Naismith brings, that we know he brings. And actually, we all got to hear it, as you said already on the signing video in lockdown, because we could hear everything that happened on the pitch. But, that comment to Kinner Dewsbury Hall, all of that stuff. Yeah, it would be great to have someone with that kind of leadership quality in the team, because we desperately miss it. So that's good. Yeah, I was, he was brilliant on the left side of a three, but I think, can he do it in a back four? Well, time will tell. But I think the leadership there is excellent. I think he could also do a job as a defensive midfielder as well. Gives a bit more cover there. He's brilliant on the ball. He has all the attributes. And I think he did play that position for us maybe a couple of times as well. So there is some versatility. I mean, he's probably the most versatile player in the Football League, or he was until we signed him and converted him into a left centre-back. So he's played up front. He's done pretty much everything. So,
he scored a lot of goals for Portsmouth
that's right.
as a left forward.
Yeah,
crazy.
But yeah, no, I'm pleased to have him back, and he clearly has a point to prove. Not just because he's not getting game time at Bristol City, but the way that he left Luton, I don't think he was happy with the narrative of that. He didn't help himself clearly from the comments, but I'm pleased to see him back, and someone with a point to prove is exactly what we need right now.
Yeah. 100% agree. It'll be interesting to see who is going out, making way. Reports are saying that Tom Krause is on the way out. He's been recalled by Mainz, and he's going to get sent to Bochum, which is like Luton's German sister club. I think Krause has been unfortunate because he thought he was going to come in and sort of play a key role in the team pushing for promotion, and a relegation battle isn't what he signed up for, but hopefully it leaves a space for us to be aggressive in the transfer window, maybe bring in another midfielder sort of
Yeah,
that can improve our team.
we'll need it in terms of depth, right? I think Krause is flat to deceive a lot. I've not been quite as down on him as Phil and Wedge have in the main pod. Although I understand their point, I really do. You can see why German coaches get really frustrated with him. You can see why, because I think you'd mentioned this when he first came, that lots of the coaches he's played under have given up on him because he just. Because of some of the mistakes he makes or the lack of consistency, he can do brilliant things, but he also positionally can be absolutely atrocious. And, he goes from the Oxford performance, where for me he was absolutely incredible, to a Millwall performance where, all right, it wasn't his style of game, but, for me he was barely in that game, just let them through. And when he did have the ball, he gave it away a lot. So, yeah, it's been frustrating. Really, it's a shame we never saw that consistent performance. But that's probably why he's been shipped around in the first place.
Yeah. Well, let's. We got to figure out what's going to happen. So it's time for team news. So, for the team news, it's mostly as you were. Lamine Fanny, we're waiting to hear if he's going to be back for this one. Reece Burke, who knows? He's out on the grass, but you get a couple of games out of him, and then he's gone again. Shandon Baptiste, who? Tahith Chong, hamstring injury. Hopefully he's back middle of February. Ted Amengi and Tom Lockyer, both long-term injuries. What do we do for this one? Does Matt Bloomfield mix it up? Because it's not a double game week.
It's not a double game week. And there wasn't one sort of standout poor performance against Millwall because they were all pretty poor. To be perfectly honest, it was such a non-event. Nobody turned up really. Kaminsky's really the only one that leaves that game with any real credit in the bank. So it's difficult to say, I guess. Do you chuck Naismith straight in? It would be a risk. He's barely played this season, but it's not as if we've got a left centre back with a nailed on position, and he offers us a left foot as well. So there's a possibility there. I think we've got to do something about creativity and something up front. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cal Naismith probably started on the bench, but Asgard starts, or change around that forward line a little bit, because Adebayo is not even a shadow. What's less than a shadow of your former self? I don't know what that is, but he's just wind. Yeah. At the moment, there's just nothing from him coming into that. Jacob Brown has looked pretty ineffective, which is a shame, really. I mean, he's not played through the middle, and I do like him as a player. He's never been prolific, it's worth saying either, even when he was with Stoke. So he's not the answer to us not scoring lots of goals. So, yeah, I think that's where we've got to mix things up, really. I'd like to see Nakamba, Clark and maybe Asgard in that team if Lamine Fanny's not fit. I don't know. He's close, isn't he? So we'll see. And maybe mix it up front. It'd be good to see Doughty having another 90 minutes, hopefully, on the left wing, and maybe has a bit more of an impact in this game than he did in the last one. Yeah. So I imagine that it's the left back position that's the biggest worry for me, as it was in the last two games. But at the moment, I don't see there being an alternative. I don't see Naismith playing left back. I don't know about you, and I don't see Doughty playing left back either. So it's got to be Bell unless somehow we get someone in and they're ready to play, which is unlikely at this point.
I think Doughty will probably start at left back because Bell's performances have been absolutely atrocious. I don't know if it will help having Cal Naismith next to him, sort of talking to him throughout the game, but at the same time, Bell's confidence looks absolutely shot. He can't hold on to the ball. He just turns into blind alleys. I much prefer Alfie Doughty coming in, playing left back, and then potentially we can get three behind the striker. Asgard, try Brown out again, maybe Zach Nelson. I don't know. It's Matt Bloomfield's problem, not mine, fortunately. And then it's a case of, do you have Elijah or Carlton up front? Do you try Elijah on the left wing to let him run at people, give him some space on the left wing, and just let him point him in the direction of the goal and let him run at them.
You'd have to say literally, it is that way.
Face him that way.
I don't know. It was so poor, wasn't it, in the last game? And it's difficult to see how that changes. I don't know what you think to this. I mean, it was an absolute failure at Sheffield United, but he did have a broken foot. Whether Walters can come in on the other side, is it a possibility? Or even Hashioka? They both played left side, neither with great impetus, to be honest. But
I don't want either of those two on the left-hand side. No. Definitely not. Certainly not. I think we've got to focus on round pegs, round holes now. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. Playing players out of position when they're low on confidence just breeds more low confidence, and that you end up in an absolute pork pie of a mess. But I guess we won't know the team news until Matt Bloomfield comes out, because there might be some surprise returns as always. But now, let's have a look at some previous encounters. As always, you can check out all previous encounters between Sheffield Wednesday and Luton Town on hattersheritage.co.uk. It's all the games going back to the dawn of the Football League, the dawn of these two teams playing against each other. I'm using FOTMob. There are 8 games between these two teams. What's the spread? This should be easy because we've done this before.
It should be easy if I could remember. I can't remember what I did earlier today, so it's not. What is it? 8 games. We've won more than they have. We had done last time. I know that, and we beat them last time. So 5-2-1, 5 Luton, 2 Sheffield United, 1 draw.
Oh, on the head, right?
Right, I'm clapping myself. It's pathetic.
I applauded you.
Thank you.
That was incredible. And no point asking you what your memorable game is.
It wasn't the last one. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we can just replay the last pod.
Yeah.
You can check out the last match preview. So if you're watching this, please put your memorable games in the comments section below. Obviously, it's going to be the turnaround against Sheffield Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah. Elijah Adebayo announcing himself to Luton fans.
Oh, I miss that Elijah Adebayo. Yes.
Elijah as well.
Yeah. Cal Naismith scored in that game, I seem to remember as well, didn't he?
Well, maybe.
So, maybe there's an omen. That would be nice.
It's a sign. It's a sign.
Yeah.
But for now, we're going to kick this over to Phil. And he's met with the opposition for their thoughts ahead of this game. Take it away, Phil.
Thank you, Ollie, and thank you, Mark. As said, today I'm speaking to Matt from the Wednesday Till I Die pod. It's a poignant day, actually, on the day of recording this for Wednesday fans. It's the 10-year anniversary of Chansiri taking over their club. And if you look at things on the face of it, they're actually doing pretty damn well. They're 9th in the championship. They're 3 points outside the playoffs, and things are all looking rosy. But that's one of those things that occurs when you're looking and not properly looking into the situation. They're very, very fortunate that they've got Danny Roll as their manager, and he's doing absolute wonders on a limited budget, doing really, really well with a bunch of players that I personally think are probably punching above their weight a little bit. And I think that if you had the most honest of Wednesday fans, they will probably say the same. I think they're probably riding the crest of a wave a little bit. But we'll find that out from Matt a little bit further. My understanding is there's some protests arranged before the game on Saturday. So it'll be really interesting to speak to Matt and see things from an Owls fan perspective. As for Luton Town, at the time of recording, we've made a couple of signings. I personally think that they're very astute signings. I think that Cal Naismith has been a missing link. The style of play that he's got. He's a ball-carrying centre defender. He can spray a ball around. He can carry the ball between the lines and stitch things through to the midfield if he needs to. And we haven't really had that since losing Gabe Osho in the summer to Auxerre. So I'm really quite pleased with that, actually, that sign. I think that'll be a really astute signing, a really clever one as well with his leadership skills. And we've got Asgard as well from Wigan, who's an exciting prospect. And let's just hope that because he's played this level before, because he's been playing every single week for Wigan. He'll hit the ground running, because at this stage we need everyone to be hitting the ground running. Today it looks like Kraus has disappeared. Mixed feelings about that one, to be honest with you. I'm hoping that it frees up a loan space for someone a bit more exciting, and a bit more, what's the right word? A bit more inventive, a bit more impactful is probably the right word I'm looking for, on a Luton Town team. That may make me popular for saying that, may not, but it's my opinion. But here's what Matt had to say from the Wednesday Till I Die pod. So everyone, as promised, I've got Matt here from the Wednesday Till I Die pod. Matt, first and foremost, thank you so much for joining me again. It was a pleasure having you on last time. Really pleased to have you back on. And it's a good time to be a Wednesday fan at the minute.
Oh, interesting, Phil. I'll be honest with you.
I know. So in
such a dichotomy, I'll be honest.
I mean, in my introduction, Matt, just to be really honest with you, I said it's going to be really, really interesting to talk to you, because on the one side, you've got what's going on the pitch. And that's where that comment comes from. That is a good place to be. And that's the important thing in many ways. But it's the 10-year anniversary of Chancery sort of taking over Wednesday. I've heard rumours that there's some sort of protest on Saturday. Is that right?
Yeah, for anybody who is travelling up to Hillsborough, please get involved if you would like to. I know Luton Town have a history of poor ownership. Obviously, I know it's not going great at the minute, from an ownership perspective. But I mean, of another club who has been through the ringer with poor owners. There is a planned protest. You'll see plenty of yellow posters on Saturday. They are just being held up before the game. It is. We were told by our owner at a fans forum, which I'm sure anybody who keeps an eye on the Championship will have seen some of the mental quotes that came out of that. But the poster that is going round, which is entitled, "You told us to find a buyer, so here we are. The club is for sale," and they're all for sale signs that are going up.
Oh, yeah, very good. I like that. Yeah. That's very clever. A little bit of a nuanced way of doing it. Yeah, no, that's good.
So
that's good.
There will be posters outside the away end for anybody who does want to get involved. Please, I would really encourage you to join in, because it's a car crash off the field.
It's such a shame. I mean, I think you're right. I think that to have Luton fans come along on that particular day, it will be good, because ultimately we're fan owned, in one sense. That 2020 that actually own us, they are Luton fans. They got us out of the mire, and for that they'll always be held in high esteem, despite how difficult things are at the moment. The tide has slightly turned a little bit, and as we were saying off air, I think it's because of we've had 2 successive seasons worth now of poor investment, and that being said, we were saying also off air about the fact that we made a couple of signings, so it swings and roundabouts. The mood of a football fan is mad, but let's focus on the good stuff then. Let's focus on what's going on the pitch. And obviously you got a 2-0 win at the weekend. You're 3 points off the playoffs. And I think that when we spoke last time, I would argue we weren't expecting that.
No, I would have argued it was role reversed, Phil. Me and you were both expecting.
Yeah. So things are really looking good, and surely you just must be happy with the stuff that's purely on the field.
On the field. Again, everybody will know about our manager. He's one of the, I would argue, the hottest property. Him and Cifuentes probably are the two outside of the, your clubs who are around the, top 3 sides. They're the 2 managers who are next up, it would appear, for a jump towards a top end of the division job, or a parachute payment job, or a Premier League, or in Danny Röhl's case, he's from Germany, so he's linked with a lot of top division moves to Germany. He's the epicenter of it all, really. Him and his coaching staff. There's Chris Powell on there, and a few others. They are dragging mountains out of this playing squad, because this playing squad on paper, it is the 4th lowest budget in the division. We haven't signed anybody this January. I know we had 11 players come in the summer. We only paid 2 fees, and that sum total was £3 million. Again, on the surface of it, looks wonderful, but a lot of the players that you will see at the weekend will be the players who started at Kenilworth Road, who've been the players who've been starting for us for a long time. This squad is way outstripping expectations. The fact that we are 3rd and we are coming into February, Now, we'll preface this by saying we have yourselves who, irrespective of league position and the fact that the game is obviously for yourselves away from home, followed by West Brom, are two difficult fixtures for ourselves. But at this point in time, it's been an unbelievable season from where we all kind of sat. The fact that we are still mid-table, I think, does say quite a lot on the strength of the division in terms of Sheffield Wednesday fans aren't kidding themselves. We know it's a weak championship, which is why when we were talking just then about ownership and January business, which is why there is a lot of frustration surrounding Sheffield Wednesday at the minute, because this is an opportunity to push, because that opportunity won't be there next year with the clubs who are coming down and the likelihood of the clubs who are going up. But yeah, on the pitch, it's been a brilliant season. It's been really, really good to watch so far.
Yeah, I mean, the one that stands out to me, I think I mentioned him when we very, very first spoke. I mentioned about Windass, and obviously the goal from the halfway line was unbelievable, first and foremost. I don't know whether you've ever seen Ollie Lee's goal for Luton from his own half. But I'd encourage.
I'm sure I will have done.
Yeah, I'd encourage you to have a look at it, Matt, because what I was actually having a debate with someone the other day, and I was actually in Windass's camp, which won't go down with my Luton fan followers. But the difference I have is that the distance was almost exactly the same. But Windass's didn't bounce first.
No.
It was just an unbelievable strike. But the thing that strikes me with him, though, is that he doesn't really smile.
No.
He looks unhappy
all the time.
But all the time. Is that just because he's just like a born winner, do you reckon, or is he got a bit of a gripe? I don't understand it.
So we spoke about him, Phil, obviously on the first preview where we talked about Josh Windass, and I know you'd mentioned this was a player who you've kind of like coveted and wanted Luton Town to go after. At that point, realistically, I was saying if you came in for a bid of $2 million, most Sheffield Wednesday fans would be happy to let him go.
Yeah.
He, this season, has been, I would say he's taken chances, but he's scored important goals. So the other thing to kind of highlight with him is the 10 goals that he's got currently are all in 10 different games. So he hasn't hit a brace in any. Whereas you look at our dearly beloved neighbours who've just paid 13 million for a striker who scored 4 in one game, it can skew the stats a little bit. Josh Windass's goals have been telling and meaningful goal contributions to us this year. Ironically, he's not the best player of the season, but I'll come on to that in a second. In terms of why he doesn't celebrate, so when he stayed with us and he went down to League One, his dad said, you can't be celebrating goals in League One, that's embarrassing. So he didn't celebrate at all. And one of the reasons why I think you don't really see much of a celebration from Josh Windass now is because he plays angry. So he plays very, very aggressive. He always looks in a mood. If he gets brought off as a substitute on, say, for argument's sake, the weekend and the game's drawn, don't be surprised if a water bottle goes off at the bench or whatever. Okay. He is just a fiery character, and it clearly gets the best out of him. Now, that does irk some Sheffield Wednesday fans, and that probably is why he's not completely beloved by sort of like unanimously by the fan base. But we sat here and said he's capable of producing those moments of brilliance. I think he is a mark of the manager and the coaching squad, because those moments of brilliance have been more frequent, and actually his all-round performances over the course of the season would be better. I would say if we are looking at our best player is on loan from Southampton, is Shea Charles in the centre of the park. Yeah, he is the reason, alongside Bannon, as to why we are where we are this season. I mean, you guys obviously had Ross Barkley last year, and you could see that there was a touch of quality about him. We had Ross Barkley obviously right at the start of his career when he came on loan to us. From Everton, and we could all see this lad's going to go on to play top 6 in the Prem at some point in his career. I will stick my neck out now and say you will see the same from Shea Charles at some point over his career. Right. He's that good. We've had Aston Villa scouts at games watching him. We've had Arsenal scouts at games watching him. Liverpool scouts. Like, everybody currently is keeping an eye on him. He's played 4 times for his country. Northern Ireland, he's captain. He's a very, very good player.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think the frightening thing from a Luton's perspective is that we bypass the midfield, and in one way you could kind of think that might work to our advantage. But if he's able to pull the strings in there, he can make our lot look very, very ordinary. So that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on at the weekend. That's for sure. It's interesting going back to Windass, and I don't want to be like a Windass centric.
No, of course.
We spoke about him before, but it makes me wonder about like that reasoning and about like you shouldn't be celebrating in League One. It's almost like, I think that to be an absolutely elite player, you need to have an ego. And you need to have an element of self-love and understand that you're better. And it makes me wonder if he's like, actually, I'm a Premier League player and I shouldn't be celebrating in the Championship. Is there any truth in that, you reckon? Or is it?
Yes, I would say from everything that you hear about, so Josh Windass is a completely clean living and very nice and polite, well-mannered young individual off the pitch. He released a YouTube video towards the end of last season where we saw a glimpse in terms of like the running of it. It was about 20 minutes. It was the only YouTube video that he's ever released. And you actually got a glimpse into what he's like outside the pitch. He doesn't drink, never has done, never smokes. Like you're never going to catch him in a night or stumbling out of a nightclub at 4 o'clock in the morning type of job. But that does lead to, he has an awful lot of talent. And the ego that is there, he has openly spoke about it in interviews with our local press. He said, well, if I don't believe that I'm the best player on the pitch, who else is going to? And when he puts it very, very bluntly like that, you kind of go, fair enough. Yeah. He said, I've got to where I've got to, not because of who my dad was. I've got to where I've got to because of my playing ability. I'm playing for one of the biggest, in his words, not mine, in one of the biggest clubs outside of the Premier League. And he said, and I've played for Rangers, who's one of the biggest clubs in Europe. Yeah. He said, I don't play for those clubs without believing that I am the best player on this pitch. And you see it, you will, I can guarantee you will see an awful lot of that on Saturday, that swagger and kind of shouting and abusing people, but also giving it back to people. It's just doesn't quite fit his aesthetic, I would say. Someone who's covered in tattoos and wears like leg sleeves and stuff like that. But he's definitely motivated. I would say a very motivated individual, to be kind.
Yeah, no, I like it. No, it's really good. I mean, going from potentially brilliant to maybe not so brilliant. No, one of the things again we spoke to in the early season, and obviously it's not as bad as perhaps we first thought it could be, but there was real worries about your sort of centre back pairing, and about sort of an element of sort of a little bit liability. How has it improved? I obviously keep an eye on the highlights. We do our championship show at OK Football, so I try to make sure that I touch base. And there's been a couple of games that I can recall where you think, bloody hell. Yes. But generally speaking, have they got things sort of tied down a little bit? Are they looking a bit more cohesive? Or
interesting question, Phil. So currently we only have 2 fit centre backs at the club. One of whom is Deshaun Bernard, who I spoke about the last time that we talked, who has been, aside from a couple of, I'd say, shaky or strange displays, there was a red card against Stoke, that was baffling. Yeah. He gave the ball away, dragged someone down, and then 30 seconds later decided to hook the same player and was immediately sent off. We're currently playing Michael Ahekwa, who is probably best known for his time at Rotherham, who came in as the kind of League One jobbing centre half to get you up from League One. Not particularly pretty, but wins everything in the air. Yep. He was frozen out of the team before Christmas, was basically told just to stay away, like nothing personal, just you're not going to play. He's recently come back in the last couple of weeks and been outstanding. But our best performer, I would say, at the back is somebody who we signed as a left wing back, who is Max Lowe, who we signed from our Steel City rivals on a free. We were told by them that he was useless, couldn't play, never fit. He injured himself for a full... yeah, exactly. He injured himself for a full season at Sheffield United by tripping over a sprinkler in a pre-match warm-up. He has been, I would say, our second or third best player. He has been so consistent. He's so calm. He's so composed. The club have recently put out an interview with him and said, how have you found the change to centre half? And he said, it's actually really nice. I have to do less running and I've got more time on the ball. He looks very, very composed. He's not the biggest in stature or in height. He's very rarely caught out of position. But that has meant that with a thin squad, I would say, in terms of quality, our starting 11 is competitive. When you go to the bench, hit or miss, really. It depends on the weeks. But at the minute, he is our best defender. So defensively, I think the shape change has helped. Like, obviously, when we came to Kenilworth Road earlier in the season, we'd just gone back to a back three. We went through a big period of time after that game, also sticking with the back three. We've now started to vary it up between a back three or a four, just a flat back four, dependent really on, I suppose, the players who Danny chooses to play further up the park. But there is a lot more trust from Sheffield Wednesday fans in the back line at the minute, I would say. Having said that, we have also conceded, I think it's the third or fourth most amount of goals. I mean, if you are looking for a nailed on the weekend, both teams to score. Guaranteed, yeah.
You are overestimating our attacking options. Remember, you're playing us in 23rd place. But anyway, less of the negativity. It's interesting you said about Hector and like having to bide his time to come back in. And I was reading an article earlier on today about Patterson.
Yes.
As well, and that he's had to sort of bide his time, and he was explaining actually about his mental health, and I think I'd just like to sort of add a little note there, just to say it is really important that we talk about our mental health, and fair play for him to doing it. I'm also caveat that with I mean it in jest. I do mean it in jest, Callum. Not that I expect you to be listening to this, but you are a tired-looking 30-year-old. I could not believe he was 30. Could not believe he was 30, and he's doing that. He's got the career that I would have loved to have had. So he's living the dream. So he would very much give me 2 fingers up if he ever heard that comment. But
he does look old.
He does look. He looks more like 40, bless him. But he got his goal as well at the weekend, and like I say, I'm pleased for him that because he has been a name that's been around forever as well. It feels like he's been around for ages and ages, and he's obviously worked his way back into the team, and that's really good for him.
Sorry, Phil. Yeah, he's an interesting player, I would say, Callum Patterson, because he does the same things every game that he plays. 1 in 5 it comes off. Right. And the one that you saw at the weekend. So, I mean, for anybody who hasn't watched the finish from the QPR game, please go back and watch the goal. It's a fantastic goal. The ball comes into him. He chops the ball with his right foot back onto his left, and puts the defender on a 30-minute spin cycle, sends him for a hot wash, and then just bends it in the bottom corner from 18 yards out with his left foot. He will give you lots of endeavour, lots of work rate, and he'll try incredibly hard. We usually bring him on, or we have been using him over the course of this season, as sort of an agent of chaos. When nothing else works for the last 10, 15 minutes, I'll just chuck him up top because he'll cause carnage. Yeah. And that is what he's very good at. But he does that regardless of the game that you're playing him. And what we tried to do at QPR, and I think why personally for myself I thought he was utilised so well, is because obviously QPR have got a lot of very young, tricky wingers who want to skin you alive and then run past you and all the rest of it, and he just stands in their way.
Yeah.
And just says, well, you're not getting past me. Yeah. And he does it in a way that doesn't draw yellow card after yellow card. He does it in a way that's enough to bring a player down, but not enough to get a booking, and he will do that consistently. He has been a fringe player, and say for argument's sake, if he does start at the weekend, because again, there's no given with Callum Patterson whether he will start. If he does start against you on the weekend, you'll soon tell within the first 30 minutes whether he's actually going to be any good or not. Because he'll win every ball that's in the air for him. But then it's when the ball is played along the floor to him and you get him to try and take a touch, it's either going to go under his foot, over his foot, or he will somehow manage to miraculously control it.
Yeah. I mean, he's also played sort of, I'm pretty sure, did he play at fullback or wing back at some points in the season as well?
Yeah.
He just comes across to me as just one of those guys that will do anything to sort of get on the pitch. And you've got to say fair play for him in that respect. But it also brings me sort of my final question really to you, Matt, because you mentioned a few times about the fact that sometimes a bench can be good, sometimes it can be bad, it can be ineffective. I mean, and I don't want to sort of be the cause of misery at the end of this chat, not by a long stretch, because obviously you're having a great season and there's no disrespect to that. But do you think that you're 3 or 4 injuries away from finding things a lot tougher? Do you feel like you've got that depth, or is that one of the reasons why there's frustration as well, because you feel like you need that additional depth to what you've already got?
Well, 1 injury away.
You think it's that bad?
Yeah, much? It's not 2 or 3. So I will give you that particular scenario in a microcosm. So we played Bristol City in a midweek game about a week this time last week. Sorry, so on the Wednesday of the last game week, where it was the triple game week.
Yeah.
Shay Charles at that point was being recalled towards Southampton. So for those who don't know the story, our chairman came out in a public forum, said Shay Charles isn't ready for Southampton, he's not ready for the Premier League, they're going to leave him here and he's going to stay. 6 hours later, at the end of that fans forum, yes, you heard me that right, 6 hours later, the last little nugget that he left after everybody else was he disappeared out the room for 10 minutes, came back in, and he said, just so you're all aware, Shay Charles has been recalled by Southampton. That loan had a 7-day recall on it, so he was able to play away at Leeds and he was able to play at home to Bristol. He got a booking inside the first 30 minutes against Bristol City, and the manager took him off because he was a walking red card.
Right.
We fell to pieces. Bristol City were not in the game at all, couldn't get a foothold in it, hadn't had a shot, I don't think, in the first half. We were lucky to come out of that with a 2-2 draw, because realistically it should have been 4-5-6 to Bristol City, and it was only their inadequacies in front of goal. It was effectively 10 players camped on the edge of the area. When I know people will say, oh, we've got a very good player, he's so crucial to what we do, because on the back of, he plays in sort of like a pivot role in midfield, but you will see him pop up at left back, at right back. You'll see him drop into a back three. What it has released is Barry Bannon at 35 years old to dictate games entirely. It has released Josh Windass to basically be a creative and free spirit. It has released Jenny Kasama, who plays on the left-hand side, to basically drift wherever he would like, because they have the understanding that, well, if it goes back there, he'll win it. Because if there is any sort of a 50-50 on Saturday, Shay Charles will win it. And it's nothing against the players who he's coming up against. He has done it against every single team in the league. And there has to come a point where you just sit there and go, okay. When we thought he was all getting recalled on that Wednesday, and we still hadn't brought anybody through the door, the reported loan fee that Southampton wanted was 300,000. So they wanted to, because we were only paying 10% of his wages, they wanted an increase of that and £300,000 on top. He is that pivotal to us that we were backed into a corner where you have to pay that. Now, for a club, I know with historically, I know Luton aren't blessed with cash. But at the minute, there's obviously a little bit of money swelling around from parachute payments, and I know there's been a little bit of wiggle room. £300,000 Sheffield Wednesday at the minute is an awful lot of money. And a decision was taken on, I think, Thursday or Friday last week by the club to actually, pay the money for the loan, because actually it keeps the season alive from a positive perspective for us. If you're then going out and looking at what I suppose we'll do at the weekend in regards to will there be players in the door, my honest answer is no. So if, say, for argument's sake, there is an injury to Shay Charles, Bannon or Windass, our season goes off a cliff very quickly. And it is the first time in a number of seasons where we have only dealt with a handful of injuries. And that is to do with the rigorous pre-season schedule that the manager put the players through, because he made sure that they are fit, because it is almost nailed on. There or thereabouts, it's the same 13 players who start week in, week out, and if they don't start, they come off the bench. Our depth is just simply not there. And it won't be if there is no further investment, which at this point and this time of recording looks unlikely. Every single player that we are linked with goes to another championship club, because we just, when I say simply our owner will tell you a different story and say that he has money to spend. He doesn't. And that's been proven. We've, the last 5 seasons, we've paid £4 million in transfer fees. Tells you everything you need to know. Yeah,
it does. It does. I genuinely really feel for you guys. Like I say, having an owner of that nature is just, it's not what football's about. If you want to be in that position, that situation where you hold the purse strings, you hold the key to a lot of people's hopes and dreams. As fans, we live football, So I'm sorry that you're going through that. We will end on the prediction, though, Matt. What you said about both teams to score already? You've teased me a little bit. What are you going for in terms of a score prediction on Saturday?
So earlier on in the season, I obviously said I would love to say 1-1, but I couldn't. I just couldn't see it, and obviously I went for yourselves. It's ironic that our away form is better than our home form. I think we have only just over a shade more points at home than we do away. I'm going to stick my neck out and say it's going to be 2-1 to Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend, just on the sheer fact of I don't think that the players who have been bought in, I also, in terms of the manager, I think the manager that you've got in is an exceptional manager in Matt Bloomfield. I think he deserves a crack. He's bided his time. He's done wonders at Wickham to get them playing the way that they are, because from spells and watching them in League One, I'd get neck ache from 90 minutes. But watching Wickham this season, then obviously when he's got the job at yourselves, he's got a very good squad. I just don't think he's going to have enough time to gel those players in, and it may start off really well. What I suppose I'm hoping for as an opposition fan is that it does tail off with 60 minutes to go, and if it's 1-1 there, one thing that we are very good at doing is finishing games very strongly. We score a lot of goals late on, and we've had a lot of last minute winners or late turnarounds this season, which again is unusual, probably speaks to why we're having a good season. But yeah, I think 2-1 Wednesday on the weekend.
I think that's a fair enough shout. I think I've gone 2-0. I do have my own worries about our ability to score. I think it's just and I want the tide to turn, and I think that getting a few signings in at Luton, it will hopefully change the mood a little bit. I'm really hopeful, but when you look at our away form, we're 12 losses on the bounce, not 12 without a win, 12 losses on the bounce. That's hardcore. That's hardcore. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. But Matt, I always appreciate your time. Genuinely,
No,
it's always we've overrun by what I usually do, but I just love listening to you, mate. I think that you're fantastic. So thank you for coming on. I'll get my nose out of your backside now, Nick. and like I say, top man for joining us, and I hope that you enjoy the game on Saturday, mate.
Yeah, you too, mate. Take care.
So, guys, that was what Matt had to say from the WTID Pod Wednesday Till I Die podcast. Give them a follow if you're not already. They create some great content. It's nice to weirdly support an opposing side when they've got issues. So please do, if you're going up to Hillsborough, get hold of some of those yellow posters and support our sort of football loving comrades. I guess sometimes things are bigger than our own club, and those poor guys, we've had owners ourselves that are absolute scum. So let's do our bit and get behind them. As for the game, Luton Town, you may have heard me make some derogatory comments about how Luton have been recently. It's really tough to be overly positive when you've lost 12 on the bounce away from home, but a couple of new signings, should I say. Does change the complexion on things slightly. Hopefully, they'll bring a new, fresh confidence to the squad. Like I said, Cal Naismith's leadership and Asgard's creativity and flair. Let's hope that they both get game time, first and foremost, especially Asgard, as he's been playing in League One and he's hot to trot. So fingers crossed. If you do go up to Hillsborough, stay safe, have a wonderful time, get behind those Hatters. It's crux time, isn't it? It's going to be crux time from now until the end of the season. But a win, actually anything that's propping us up further up the table, whether it's a point away from home, we'll start with that little tiny step and leap forwards, fingers crossed. So have a good weekend, everyone. Fingers crossed for a good result, and as always, come on, Yatters. Take it away, Ollie and Mark.
And we're back. Thank you very much, Phil. Smashed it, mate. Right, so who's giving you sleepless nights, Ryman? Other than your kids.
Where do I start? I mean, I've got to say Barry Bannon. He scored against the last time, but the man is just an incredible creator of chances, a wonder of a left foot. It's very difficult to keep him quiet in games. He is the orchestrator of that team. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, if I'm going to pick one, I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Jamal Lowe was injured last time we played them. I don't think he played. I know Windass missed an absolute sitter, but he can be dangerous as well. So yeah, both of those. But yeah, Bannon. I would go for the easy one and go for Barry Bannon. We've got to keep him quiet to stand any chance.
Yeah, well, I'm worried about the danger down the flanks, and that's not just their fullbacks, Lowe and Valerie. Valerie gave us an absolute torrid time.
Yes.
Then tearing us apart. He's got 4 assists, 2 goals this season. Callum Patterson, we were discussing him beforehand, and we're amazed he's 30.
He's 30?
We thought he was like 50 or something.
I don't know. I felt like he's been around forever. He's one of
He is.
those that
I
I
remember
feel like
playing in the Premier League with
Yeah.
Cardiff.
Cardiff. Yeah,
Scoring
that's right.
goals in
Yeah,
Cardiff, yeah.
yeah.
And Shea Charles, no idea if Shea Charles is even going to be there.
No,
Chansiri said that he was being recalled, but he played the last game. Who knows? Who knows, really?
who knows when it comes to Chansiri?
Yeah, it's an absolute mess. It really is. And obviously, I'm worried about Windass because he does like to score against us. Right. This is a perfect time to take it on to score predictions. I'll kick this off with some optimism. I think Luton Town are going to win this one 2-1. We've had a whole week on the training ground. As I said earlier, I saw the players in Sunday, bright and early, 9:15 in the morning. So they're training hard. Bloomfield's really getting his thoughts across. The issue is the confidence. And if we lose this, we've matched a record of 13 consecutive away losses, and that is the most consecutive away losses in the history of the club. If we lose this, then it's Sunderland afterwards, and I can't see us getting anything from Stadium Light, so it would be a case of, staring down the barrel of breaking the records and setting a new one. So it's optimism for me. It really is, but the rot has to stop. It just has to.
When will it though? I mean, yeah, look, I like your optimism. I do. I get the reasoning, and I hope you're right. Obviously, I've gone for a 2-1 Sheffield Wednesday win, sort of the flip of what they did at home. I think they'll feel they owe us one. They didn't deserve to lose that game. They'll still be wondering how that's happened. I worry, like you said, about mentality and its impact. I also think that our away form, has been dismal. There have been promising signs. There have been. How much of that Millwall game has negated it in the second half against Oxford, I don't know. In terms of confidence, the side, I honestly don't know what to expect anymore, other than usually losing. But in terms of a performance, it's so hard to tell what we're going to get. But as you said, after this game, that's when the tough run really starts to kick off, beginning with what feels like an impossible fixture away at Sunderland at the moment. And it doesn't stop there, does it? We've got teams like Sheffield United at home to come quite soon as well. So it's going to be tough. And we do need to get probably something from this game if we have any real hope of starting to get ourselves out of the trouble we're in. But no, just on evidence that I've seen, I've got to go for a 2-1 Sheffield Wednesday win. I hope you're right and I'm wrong.
I also hope that I'm right and you're wrong. It's got to stop. It has to stop. It cannot go on like this, because otherwise we are just meandering ever slower into the black hole that is relegation.
Where's that Mick McCarthy quote? Just needed that.
Yeah.
Just there.
Can it get worse? Oh, it can. It's so true. It just every week it just gets worse and worse and worse. Can't wait for the. Normally, actually, you can't wait for the window to shut because you're worried about losing players. But
that's
right
not
now,
a concern.
it's a case of no one wants to take our players.
That is not a concern. Yeah.
Yeah. But what are your score predictions? Get them in the comments below. As always, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, why aren't you subscribed? Hit that subscribe button. We have loads of Luton Town stuff. I do immediate reactions to new signings. I do immediate reactions to games. And, I give my very honest appraisal of what I perceive has happened in the game. We do a live phone in every Sunday night, 9 p.m. It's a lot of fun. Me and Ryman, we take your calls and we want to hear from you guys. So check that out on our YouTube channel as well. As always, though, come on, you Hatters. Come on, you Hatters. That's the one.